in North Carolina. My first business experiences were here also as a decorator and a small shop owner, and so I met folks like Reuben back then and Robbie back then and Alice. I mean, just these are folks that I've known for all these years, so thank you all for being here. I'd like to introduce two folks who are here with me tonight. Mike Crum is Finance Director of the campaign. Mike is a professional. He's from Virginia, but he got to North Carolina as soon as he could. And has worked for a number of organizations, as you know. And Cecil Brockman is a High Point gentleman, and he went to UNC Charlotte with a degree in political science and has been involved in campaigns and worked in Washington since then. So I'm very glad to have these two fine, talented people in the campaign. So when I looked at the United States Senate race, I decided to get into it because of where we are in this time in history. I don't think there's a single person in this room, downstairs or out in the street, that wouldn't understand that we are in the most challenging times that I've ever known, you've ever known, in the history of America. We are into a recession like no other that we've ever seen. We have families that are hurting worse than they ever have in my lifetime. We are facing two wars with no exit plan, particularly when we got into those. And we are facing a time when the gap between the haves and the have-nots in the last 30 years has grown larger without any will to do too much about it. And here we are, families without jobs. That is going to be absolutely the #1 issue of this campaign season. Jobless recovery is no recovery to a lot of people. What we are seeing also in Washington is a situation where, in essence, it's still politics as usual. It is a time and a place in Washington where you really have to wonder whose voice is being heard. Because the voices that are being heard are those that are paid for with deep pockets, that are protecting their special interests. Particularly the health care debate was a prime example of that. They were loud, they were raucous, but it was paid for by the deep pockets and engineered by those who had a special interest stake in the outcome of the debate. We still don't have an outcome, but where has been the voice of everyday American in that? That is why I am running, to be a voice for the citizens of Harnett County, Lenoir County, the places where I've lived, the places where I currently live, and where I travel. After leaving Kinston, I was fortunate enough to obtain a law degree at Campbell, and so I spent my practice time helping small businesses. I helped people with family issues. I did basic civil injury cases, represented contractors, started businesses, did a lot of those kinds of activities. So I've been in touch with people to understand their frustrations. Franklin Roosevelt, in one of his inaugural addresses, addressed the forgotten man and talked about the forgotten man's voice. Today, we would say it's the forgotten man and woman. It really doesn't matter. The operative word is forgotten. That is the reason I am running. We have to change leadership in Washington. Today we have one side saying no and the other running scared. That's not leadership. We have votes that are being taken on short-term, will I get reelected, rather than the long-range future of America. That's not leadership. Folks, I'm not out to get another notch in my belt. I want to be a problem solver. I believe I've been that my whole lifetime, and clearly, now worse than ever, we need problem solvers to go to Washington. I've taken on tough challenges, and I've had success. Early in my life, I was raised in rural Maryland, where the expectation was that maybe you graduated from high school, but you clearly went to the plant and got a job, or worked on the farm and had a family, and that was the life pathway. I had good teachers in my high school who saw something in me. I also had a 4-H agent who believed in me and opened doors for me. I wouldn't be where I am today without the 4-H program. And I spend my time today trying to return that value to today's youth by working with the 4-H of North Carolina and the various counties. So I've taken on tough challenges. When I decided to go to law school, that was the toughest challenge of my lifetime. I was a home ec major. I wasn't sure I could make it. But lo and behold, I buckled down and studied like I'd never studied before. And amazingly, I amazed myself. They say that we're all like tea bags. We're never sure how strong we are until we get in hot water. So I felt like I was in hot water a lot in law school. I've taken on tough challenges when I ran for the North Carolina Senate from a rural district. We didn't have women representing rural districts. We didn't have very many women at all in the North Carolina General Assembly. And I was delighted to take on the healthcare industry, especially to get coverage in rural areas. And lo and behold, the Raleigh News and Observer called me the Rookie of the Year. I enjoyed the legislative process. Then when I decided to run for Secretary of State, all my friends said, "Gee, Elaine, that's a good idea, but..." Richard Petty was the Republican nominee, and folks said it couldn't be done. His name recognition was way up there, and mine was down here somewhere. But with a lot of hard work, Chris Hardy in that campaign, a lot of you putting a lot of sweat and tears and energy in that race, they said it couldn't be done, but we did it. Then when I became Secretary of State, it was an office that was, well, sort of in the dark ages. It was an example of how not to do business. Bankers and folks, real estate developers and lawyers that used the office would send papers off. That was all you could do there, drive them to Raleigh. And it'd be weeks before you ever knew if you were incorporated. Well, they say you can't change the ship of state. We've done that. By embracing technology, your Secretary of State's office today is being held out as an example of how citizens and government ought to interact. We support business formation. We support lending activities in this state. I actually am a law enforcement regulator, and I hope you may have seen me on Good Morning America just last week on a feature on counterfeit perfumes. That's something I have a great passion about, trying to protect legitimate retailers, legitimate manufacturers, and innovators here in North Carolina. Without protection for innovation for the future, we have nothing in this country. Without protecting our good ideas, we have nothing. So I have a tremendous track record in that area. When I took on lobbying reform, I saw things that didn't look good. They just didn't smell or feel right to me. And they said, "Gee, Elaine, that's a good idea, but you're facing a lot of special interests. It can't be done." When I started the Blue Ribbon Committee, it was almost a full 2 years before those unpleasant headlines that embarrassed many of us. We had a new lobbying law prior to those unfortunate headlines and that very first investigation, which was carried out by my office. It had to do with the lottery. Those are the kinds of things where I've been able to stand up and show a pathway of achievement to get things done. Today, lobbying reports are meaningful, certain activity is prohibited, and your lobbying reports are available 24/7 online so that everybody can see what is going on. We also now have the staff to actually investigate and carry out the lobbying investigations that may come to us or don't exactly seem right from the reports. So I've been able to take on tough challenges, and I'm ready to do it again. I really believe this is a makeable campaign. It will take your help, but we need to find an America that works, an America that works for everybody. We have got to hunker down. We have got to find new leadership. Continuing to send the same old people back to Washington and expecting different results is not a very good plan. What we've got to do is send different people to Washington. For those that say, "Elaine, you can't do it," I say, just watch me. People have said that to me before. There are plenty of naysayers out there that say things can't be done. What I say to them is, get out of the way of those of us who are trying. I need your help in this race. I would very much appreciate your support. Who I am is partly made up with my experiences here in Lenoir County. I think they will serve me well if I can have that opportunity, and I would appreciate